Hey, here are 5 stupid things I've noticed about capital punishment. It's barbaric. There are many reasons to be opposed to capital punishment, but right at the top of my list is my feeling that it's just something we as a species should be well beyond by now. It's the year 2014. Humans have walked on the moon. We've mapped the depths of the oceans. We've cured diseases, domesticated thousands of plants and animals, invented technology that allows us to communicate with one another globally, instantaneously, and yet here, in the United States, a country which often pulls a muscle patting itself on the back for how civilized it is, we still execute criminals. We should be above that sort of thing, shouldn't we? I admit this is just my feeling. Perhaps you would prefer an anti-death penalty argument that is a bit less subjective. So in that case, how about this? It's expensive. Defenders of the death penalty often bristle at the notion of taxpayers having to provide incarcerated murderers with food, shelter, and medical care for their entire lives. But the truth is, those sentenced to execution are far more expensive than other prisoners, even those sentenced to serve life terms. A 2011 study by Loyola Law School found that in the state of California alone, $184 million could be saved annually if the death penalty were replaced with life imprisonment. Much of that additional cost comes as the result of the appeals process, which can be lengthy and expensive, but which is necessary to ensure that the death penalty is applied fairly. Yet even with that process in place, there are still serious deficiencies in the application of capital punishment. Foremost among those deficiencies, it's racist and classist. Race and economic status are 2 of the most important factors, statistically speaking, determining whether or not a person is sentenced to the death penalty in the United States. Defendants with the resources to afford quality legal counsel are less likely to face the death penalty. Defendants accused of killing a white victim are more likely to face the death penalty, as are defendants who are themselves people of color. African Americans, who account for just 13% of the population of the United States, make up over 40% of death row inmates. And you know something else about the death penalty? It doesn't deter crime. Like the supposedly high cost of life imprisonment, this is another seemingly very practical argument for the death penalty. So what if it isn't perfectly applied across racial or economic lines? It deters crime, therefore, ultimately, it's worth keeping around. Except that it doesn't deter crime. States with the death penalty tend to have higher homicide rates than states without the death penalty. And the national homicide rate in the United States, where we have a death penalty, is higher than that of many other countries that do not have a death penalty. So, it's barbaric, it's expensive, it's racist and classist, it doesn't work as a deterrent to crime, and oh yeah, one more thing, it's unnecessary. There is a far superior alternative to the death penalty. I've mentioned it a few times already. It's called life imprisonment. It has all the benefits of the death penalty. Heinous crimes are punished, dangerous criminals are safely sequestered away from society at large, but it's cheaper, and most importantly, unlike the death penalty, it is at least somewhat correctable. True, a wrongfully imprisoned person can never have back the years they were forced to spend in prison, but they can at least be exonerated and released to live the rest of their lives in freedom. The wrongfully executed have no such opportunity. We Americans like to think of our country as a beacon of freedom and human rights to the rest of the world. Given the costs, both to our budgets and our character, maybe it's time that we live up to our noble self-image and abolish the death penalty in the United States permanently for all people. The hardest part is only picking 5. Catch you next time.